Now, your Local 2 Weather Authority forecast with Ryan Martin.
Well, Ryan, I tell you what, you had enough wind in the forecast for me, so I did not have to do any yard work today. So it's still messed up.
Well, the wind's going to continue, so I guess the yard work's not going to be getting done anytime soon. But unfortunately, it's going to die down on Wednesday for you. But I think a lot of other people are going to be happy about that. Yep. But these wind alerts, they're still in effect for many areas. Brewster, Culberson, Jeff Davis, Reeves, as well as Eddy County. This is remaining in effect until 11 p.m. But don't rule out the possibility of this continuing, because those winds are still relatively strong throughout much of the western portion of the basin. Guadalupe Mountains still at 29 miles an hour for wind speeds, 29 up in Carlsbad. And then Central Basin, not as much, seeing those wind speeds around the 10 to 12 to 13 mile an hour range throughout much of the area. So some good news on that front, seeing some calmer wind activity, but it's going to make a comeback, and it's going to continue into Tuesday. But fortunately, it should start to die down around Tuesday afternoon. And going into Wednesday, going to be seeing relatively calm conditions throughout the entire Permian Basin. But those gusts are still very strong throughout much of the area. 46 mile an hour wind gust in the Guadalupe Mountains, 43 in Carlsbad. But this is calm compared to what we saw earlier. 62 the peak gust in the Guadalupe Mountains, 51 up in Carlsbad, and saw some high 40s in Odessa, Midland, 49 in Pecos. So just seeing these very strong conditions just about everywhere. So keep in mind, these winds are going to continue, and with this humidity, very dry conditions too, that's going to put us at risk for some possible fire. We just showed Tyler Westner's story. Make sure you watch that. Some very good information from the fire department, because these dry wind conditions and these strong very strong wind activity could definitely put us at risk for some grass fires later on. But right now, really not much on the satellite radar. We are seeing some cloud activity and some heavy thunderstorms out to the east. Also seeing some snow up in New Mexico. We're not going to be seeing any of that here in the Permian Basin, but we are going to be seeing some pretty cold temperatures at night, so be ready for that. We have a cold front that's going to make its way down into the area, so we're going to be seeing some pretty cold overnight lows for the next couple of days. And those low temperatures from overnight from yesterday, really not much of a factor. High 40s throughout much of the Central Basin. Did drop into the 30s, though, over in Hobbs, and then stayed in the 50s down in Presidio, and then also dropped into the 30s down in the Guadalupe Mountains. But right now, we're seeing these temperatures still in the 50s just about everywhere. Central Basin seeing those 50s in Odessa, Midland, 58 up in Big Spring, even the 50s up in southeastern New Mexico. We are seeing some 40s, though. Marfa, 42, 48 in Alpine, and 47 down in Fort Stockton. Now, for tonight, it's going to get a little chilly in most areas throughout much of the northern basin. Temperatures dropping down into the high 30s and low 40s. Then tomorrow, the northern basin highs back up into the 50s. Could be seeing a couple 60s here and there. Andrews at 60 degrees, 63 in Big Spring, 61 in Gale. While the central basin expect temperatures to possibly hit the 30s in many areas, especially Odessa, Midland, 39 degrees for the low. Then tomorrow, getting into the 60s in Odessa, Midland, Crane, Grand Falls, Rankin, all could be crossing into that mid-60 range tomorrow. Cope Ranch at 65 for a high. And then going to the Trans-Pecos, also going to be a little chilly tonight, but then back up into the 60s tomorrow. Pecos 61, Balmorhea 61, 62 in Fort Stockton, and then seeing those high 60s to possible 70s down along the border. Then Mountains going to be a little chilly tonight as well. But then tomorrow back up into the 50s and high 60s in Presidio, as well as the Big Bend. Marathon at 62. Going to stay in the 50s, though. Marfa, Alpine, Valentine, Van Horn, Fort Davis, and likely going to stay in the 40s up in Pine Springs. And looking at the 7-day forecast, we got one more windy day throughout much of the early times on Tuesday. Going to see that wind activity. Then going to start to calm down later on in the afternoon. Then we got more clear skies. We also have some cooler conditions coming in the next coming days. But overnight, that's what you really got to look out for. That's when it's going to really start to get cold. But then we have more rain chances on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So just like last weekend, more weekend rain chances. But just keep in mind, it's going to be very dry and very windy for your Tuesday, so no fires.
Well, see, and the thing too is, 50 on Saturday and wet. It's going to be a cold day.
Yeah, 50's the high, but don't expect it to reach that high, because that rain could definitely prevent it from getting there.
That's true.
All right, thanks, Ryan. An Army veteran is making